Thank you for joining us today, all two of you so far. We, we are going to wait for some people to show up. We've got a couple minutes left, but we wanted to make sure that you all knew we were here and are able to talk to us. So please feel free to reach out if there's anything that you want to address. Otherwise, we'll be on the other end of this until about 10 when we get started.
Yeah, and if you could just, if you can hear us, which we're pretty sure you can, just shoot like a quick thing in the chat or a quick question just to confirm that the audio is working correctly.
Awesome. Thanks to see you too.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the June webinar. So we are going to get going here, and this month we are covering end of service benefits. So as we approach the end of everyone's service, it's really good to talk about these, and we are aware that not all of these things we're going to talk about are going to be relevant to all of you, but some of it will be relevant to all of you. So please bear with us. If you are not taking the Ed Award, it's still information, and vice versa with the stipend. So jumping right in, we did a nice summer theme because it is finally feeling like summer. I was able to walk to get lunch the other day, which was really, really nice. And I think we're out of our horrible, horrible winter. So give me a second to make this work. And so here's our agenda. I'm going to talk first about using the Siegel Education Award and then other end of the year benefits. Afterwards, Rachel, who is our special guest for this month. You want to say hi, Rachel?
Hi, everyone.
So Rachel will be talking about non-competitive eligibility and how to utilize that, and then Zaki will be talking about miscellaneous other end-of-year type benefits. And then we'll go over some housekeeping. So let's jump right in. So the Siegel Education Award is what I think most of you have elected. It is the part where you get that money to pay back either qualified student loans or pursue further education upon completion of your service. It is currently for this year valued at $5,920. So that number is based on the maximum amount of a Pell Grant for the year. So if you are serving another year, it is $6,095 for the next year. It is named after Eli Siegel, who I did not know what he looked like until I Googled him, and that is a picture of the beautiful man himself. With the Education Award, you can either spend it in increments or as one lump sum. It is only taxable if you spend over $600 of it in a year, but with the breakdown of it lasting for only 7 years, there is no way to actually spend it all without being taxed on it at some point. So you're not going to escape that. There is, however, a cool movement that is underway to try and make that tax-free. We don't really know how well it's been going, but it is a thing that is in at least some people's minds. So don't rely on it happening, but in the next couple of years it could happen. So who knows? So as I mentioned before, you can either use it to pay back qualified student loans or pursue further education at eligible institutions. We'll go over what qualified student loans and eligible institutions mean a little bit later. And it unlocks from a few days to a few weeks after your service ends. You will get an email to the account that is affiliated with your my.americorps.gov account that will tell you when the award has been unlocked, and we'll also include some instructions there. So what is a qualified student loan? So a qualified student loan is a loan that is backed by the federal government under Title IV of the Higher Education Act or under Titles 7 or 8 of the Public Health Service Act. So they can also be student loans made to you by a state agency, including state institutions of higher education. So it is really important to know that your loans are qualified before you try and use the Education Award on them. So to actually repay them, you are going to need to log into myamericorps.gov, which everyone loves for how intuitive and easy to navigate it is. And you are going to, an option is going to appear that is going to say Create Education Award Payment Request. And that is going to take you to a form. A lot of the information should be pretty easy to fill out, but it's going to ask for what the payment type is. If you're paying back a qualified student loan, that type is loan payment, and the institution is whoever holds your loans, not your school. So a couple common ones are Great Lakes. My student loans were through Fed Loan Servicing. And if you're unsure, you can probably do some research on your end to find out who actually holds your loans.
That's a big one.
Navient is another, I don't know if, Maggie's a little bit far away from the phone, but she is here. She said Navient is another common one.
Some people have problems with Navient, like finding it in the institution, but it is there. So,
yeah, it brings you to like a search. When you click the institution information, it brings you to kind of like a search menu that you can find your institution there through like a keyword search. So to further your education, so if you are not interested in paying back student loans but want to use it to pursue further education, that is also another option. So to be eligible for the Siegel Education Award, the school needs to be a Title IV institution. which means that it accepts financial aid. So you can kind of use financial aid finders to actually find which schools would accept the education award. So I included a link. After this, we'll send you all the presentation, but I included a link to like a FAFSA finder, and you can use that to find out if a school is a Title IV institution or not. And it can be used to cover anything that is listed as part of the school's cost of attendance. So that could be things beyond tuition. It could be things like books, room and board, transportation, other expenses, and that is a school-specific thing, so you need to ask your school what is part of their cost of attendance. And then a really, really cool benefit is if you are looking to use your education award to further your education, there is a list of matching institutions. So these are schools across the country that have committed to helping support AmeriCorps and Vista alum in their education, and there is a list that is this link here that lists every single school in the country that offers those benefits, and they're anything from like a tuition waiver to sometimes a full tuition payment. So in Michigan, I listed a couple of the highlights. We have Cleary University, which is a business school in Howell, and they will match up to $47.25 for an undergraduate degree and an additional $47.25 if you go to them for a graduate degree. So that's almost tripling your education award. Olivet has a scholarship up to $6,000 for full-time students that is available to AmeriCorps alum. And then the University of Michigan, there are several schools, colleges there that have different benefits for AmeriCorps alum. I listed the one for their Gerald R. Ford School of Public Policy, and it is a tuition fellowship of at least $5,000 as well as a waiver of their application fee. Some other colleges at U of M also offer benefits to AmeriCorps alum. Unfortunately, MSU does not have anything, any kind of program with matching institutions for Siegel Education Award. But
there's also, if your school doesn't have one, you can say, hey, look, I have this. There are some matching institutions, and you can see what they are able to do for you. Just because they don't officially have a matching institution doesn't mean they can't give you additional aid.
yeah,
That's right. Especially with graduate school, when they're trying to compete against one another, they would be flexible about sort of renegotiating with you your financial aid package.
and yeah, and a lot of schools will at least at the bare minimum waive your application fee, which is a nice little benefit. I looked through these. There's some other cool ones. So the Northeastern University has a 25% tuition discount for AmeriCorps alums. That's a really cool one. And Princeton's Woodrow Wilson School of Public and International Affairs can fully cover tuition and fees, which is a $38,000 value a year. So that's another really cool one. So I would recommend if you're looking into grad school, just browsing through that list and that link and just seeing what is available to AmeriCorps alums. So beyond just going to grad school or furthering your education, there are also a couple fun unconventional Ed Award uses. So the cost of education or cost of attendance for some schools could include supplies like a computer. So if it is part of your school's cost of attendance, you could potentially get a computer with your education award. Knowles, which is the National Outdoor Leadership School, has a lot of really, really cool short-term like courses that are international based, and they take the education award, and they also offer a $2,000 match. So I included this picture. This is a picture of one of my people I served with my first year of AmeriCorps, and this is him in New Zealand where he took a Knowles class and had a blast. So it is a cool, if you want to get outdoors and learn some leadership skills, it is a really cool opportunity. You can also use it for things like yoga teacher certifications and trade schools. So there's a lot of ways you can use it that fall outside the traditional like going to grad school option. And the other big benefit of this is student loan interest repayment. So you can have 100% of the interest that you accrued while serving this year covered by the federal government. So this is unfortunately, as most things are, taxable, and it can only be requested after your service is complete. And it is recommended that you do if you want to do your student loan interest repayment, do this before using your education award.
I will have you know, I'm not sure why that is, because I did mine the other way, and even though I didn't have any interest left on my account because of the Ed Award, they still paid the amount of what that interest would be. It just went on my principal. So I've seen this a few places. I'm not entirely sure why, but yeah.
And
There's probably a reason. I just don't know. Yeah, I don't know what it is.
And to do this, you would just go on the same thing on My AmeriCorps, go to create an interest payment request. I included what it looks like. You'll click your term of service. You'll find your institution, like with the repayment, and you will submit it there, and you should hear from your institution about that. So once you've done these things, you should have a summary page. If you just click on My Education Award on the portal, you can look at the summary. So this is Zakia volunteered to show everyone what her summary page looks like, and it will tell you the status of your different requests and whether they've been denied or accepted. So would you like to talk a little bit more about this, Zakia?
Yeah, so you can see where it says like Education Award, loan, status denied by institution, and that's because I had My Great Lakes, and there are two places that you can send it, and one does like more of the billing, and then one is another location, and because the address was wrong, they sent it back, denied it, but they said, please just select the other one because this is the one that we want you to send it to. So it does come with instructions on like why it was denied and what you can do in order to get it approved, and then later you can see it was accepted by the institution as soon as I made that change. Yeah, so you can click on anything that's blue under request. You can click on it and get a more detailed kind of explanation of what has been paid out or why things didn't get processed. And you can see too that I sent in 2 after my second year of service. I did both of my interest payments. So I didn't do 1 year, submit an interest payment, do another year, submit an interest payment. I wasn't sure if I was actually eligible, so I said, what the heck, I'm gonna try it. And it accepted both of those, even though time had passed on that too.
So that is our brief overview of the Siegel Education Award. Does anyone have any questions about it at this time? Feel free to ask them in the chat, or you can raise your hand and we can unmute you.
So Mark says, did you have to pay the interest on the loan, and did you send in the full amount? So I did not pay any interest on my student loans. I continued to make payments throughout my year of service, so I didn't have any interest. But the interest that the government would have paid, that amount was still paid on my student loans. It just ended up going to the principal. I did the full amount. There is kind of a lot of strategy that some people do with it. We have another webinar that we can send out with this that is run by Marsha Hazen, and she goes really in depth about kind of all of the nuances of the Education Award and kind of different situations and how they might play out in order of operations and all of that stuff. I used all of it because I wanted it off my student loans, but that means that that full amount plus the interest amount is added on to my earned income that year. So in my mind, it wouldn't have pushed me over into the next tax bracket, but it was still a lot of money to pay during tax season, and I know that that can be really difficult for people. So just because it was like a financially viable option for me doesn't mean that it will be for everyone. And you're just kind of going to have to judge that based on what you are claiming on your taxes. So it's going to be very kind of individualized. Okay, so we will send out all of that, and we'll send out the links to the schools and the matching institutions, the link to this recording, and then the link to the other recording as well. Are there any other questions about the student loan? Okay, cool.
Awesome. So next we're going to talk about non-combative eligibility, so I'll pass it off to Rachel at this point. Okay.
Hi, everyone. So yeah, we're just going to jump right in. Do I have control? Sorry, Dylan. I don't know if I have control of the PowerPoint.
You should have control. Sorry about this, everyone. Now try.
Okay. So what is non-competitive eligibility? It's a benefit of VISTA service that gives you a leg up when applying for a position in the federal government, as if you were like an internal candidate who already had a federal government job. It starts after your completion of your service year and valid for 12 months after service. It doesn't guarantee a job, but permits agencies to hire former VISTA members who meet the minimum qualifications for that job listing without going through like all the formalities that they need to with like the federal jobs competitive process. So the benefits, it's a federal hiring appointment and it's only granted to VISTAs and returning Peace Corps members. So basically it allows you to compete in a smaller applicant pool and increase your chances of getting a job. And it also allows you to compete for jobs that aren't available to like citizens, like general public citizens. There's like a lot of terms with the federal hiring process, but yeah, it allows you to compete for jobs that would only be available for people who are like currently working in the federal government. So basically what that means is hiring managers in federal departments can hire VISTA members who meet the minimum qualifications without speaking to anyone else and can make an offer. So usually they'd have to go through like certain formalities and look at others who have similar advantages in the hiring process, like veterans.
Yeah, so also to add on to that, Maggie gets emails 1 to 2 times a year from the Social Security Administration asking for people to apply, and she always passes those along. So there are people who are looking specifically to hire people who have this non-competitive eligibility.
Right. So it's definitely highly desired by hiring managers. It's a faster hiring process, and you have a significant advantage because, and it's all about USA Jobs and how to apply, but I'll get into that later. So extensions. NCE status lasts for 12 months only, but it can be extended up to 2 years for 3 total years of NCE status. And so there's 3 reasons for extensions. If you enter the military, if you become a full-time student at a recognized institution of higher learning, or if you engage in another activity that the hiring agency thinks warrants an extension. So this is kind of confusing, but you cannot submit a case for extension to like a specific CNCS office. There's no office that deals with this. It would be with the hiring manager or agency that you would ask them to consider extending it. So you would have already had to complete this if you had already gone back to school and your NCE status technically expired after 12 months. You would apply for a job and ask the hiring manager to extend it. I hope that makes sense. There's probably going to be questions about that, but basically you just have to ask the hiring manager if they would consider extending your NCE eligibility after you complete one of the 3 reasons that I just listed. So there's no office to extend. There's nothing you can do. You just have to talk to the hiring manager. So how do you find jobs using non-competitive eligibility? A lot of the times it's networking. You can search NCE eligible positions. So that would be like on USA Jobs. You can also find jobs on the VISTA Campus Job Board. If you're at like a job fair that uses that has federal agencies there. Don't assume hiring managers know what that is, because sometimes they don't. Also, there's a bunch of online resources to find government jobs. There's GovLoop, Go Government, AmeriCorps Alum, which is now Service Year Alliance. So there's a link right there. There's also tons of virtual job fairs that are looking to hire past VISTA members. And another thing you can do is just put it in your resume and cover letter. So this is just an example of what you need to do to like advocate for yourself and show that you have this eligibility status, and then just put it under your title and when it expires, because that's also important.
I have a question quickly for you, Rachel.
Yeah.
So if I was looking for federal jobs right now and wanted to indicate that I don't have non-competitive eligibility status yet, but I'm anticipating it, did you find anything about like the verbiage of how I should indicate that on my resume?
Yeah, you could, in your cover letter or resume, you just indicate that the time when you are, when you finish your service year. So you would say non-competitive eligibility begins this date, ends this date. But I know a lot of the federal hiring process is a very long process. And so the picking out resumes and cover letters and getting them to an actual HR person takes a while, so sometimes months. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. If you're looking for jobs right now, just indicate that you have NCE eligibility, or you have NCE.
Thank you.
Or will have it when you complete your service year. Okay, so I wanted to go into USJ jobs, but you can just like go into the link. You have to create a profile, and you have to upload documents like a cover letter, and then also there's a verification letter for NCE that I'll show you how to get to later. It's also beneficial to build a resume instead of uploading a PDF copy. If you want to upload a copy, you probably want to do a doc version, not a PDF. Just because federal resumes require more detailed info. A lot of the times they're scanned for keywords. So how many times you like ping the system with how many keywords you use in that job listing depends on whether you built the resume in USA Jobs or whether you just uploaded one. On USA Jobs, there's also on the landing page, there's job fairs, virtual job fairs that you can do. That if you scroll down, you can also explore hiring paths. There's actually a section at the bottom with just VISTA and Peace Corps, and then you can look through some of those resources there. Yeah. And also, I've heard that you should save AmeriCorps as a keyword. Obviously, there are AmeriCorps jobs on USA Jobs, but sometimes they'll put like AmeriCorps VISTA in their job description looking for AmeriCorps VISTA members. So if you save like VISTA or AmeriCorps as a job search, you'll get automatic updates about jobs that may be looking for AmeriCorps alum. Okay, so this is how you get to your verification letter. It's on your My AmeriCorps homepage. Click My Service Letter and then select dates and then select VISTA Verification of Service. And so your service letter may show up within days or weeks of service after your service ends, just like the Ed Award. Okay, so here's some frequently asked questions. I'm serving 2 years. Does that mean I get 2 years of NCE? So, does anyone want to answer that? No.
If you want to answer via audio, you can raise your hand, or you can just type out a question or chat as well.
Okay, I just put the answer up. So no, if you're serving 2 years, no, you only have 12 months following completion of service. Unless you ask for an extension when you're applying for jobs. Okay, I'm serving 2 years. Do I receive my NCE benefit after my first year? I'll just go for it. No, you will receive your letter after your second year is complete. So if you, I couldn't find any information about this, but if you end your service year early, and you're in your second year, I'm not totally sure about when or how you get your NCE eligibility. I'm assuming you do because you completed 1 year, but it's very clear in the language that it's after everything is complete that you receive these benefits.
Yeah. So last year we had someone who was going to be brought on, and they wanted their NCE letter like 2 days before they ended service. We absolutely cannot give you that letter before service. We have no control over it. They will not give it to you even like a minute and a half early. So it's not even worth asking, and it's entirely up to the hiring organization whether or not they wait. But because they have that freedom, there's really no reason they can't wait either. So they have all of that flexibility.
Cool. And then, am I considered a federal employee as a VISTA on federal applications? No, do not list yourself as a federal employee. That's actually technically lying, and you'll get banned from USA Jobs if they find out that you're lying about that. So we're not federal employees. Don't check that box. And that's all I have. Does anyone have any questions?
Okay, we don't have any questions on this end.
Okay.
Oh, wait, looks like Jennifer has a
She
question?
said no.
Oh, sorry. I just saw the question thing pop up and assumed it was a question.
Cool.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much for talking with the whole cohort, Rachel.
Yep.
So I'm going to talk about some other benefits for those of you either getting the cash stipend or just some other things. Trish. Okay, Trish has asked what the living stipend is, or the cash stipend. It is $1,803. So those $3 go a long way. And that will be paid out with your last living stipend, direct deposited with whatever bank account that we already have on file. On Vista Campus, it will say that it's paid out during the last 2 stipends. That's not, in the same way that you don't get paid by CNCS, M&A actually manages that. So if it's different than what Vista Campus is saying, don't worry about it. We have all of that planned out. If you've selected the Siegel Education Award, I know that Maggie sent out an email about this. You have until the last day of the 10th month of service to switch over. So your deadline for that is rapidly approaching. I believe it's, don't super quote me right now, I believe it's June 10th if you're ending service on August 19th. So if you're ending service earlier than that, because this is a second or third or fifth year, or if you're ending service in September, November, December, that date won't apply to you, but all of you should have it kind of on the radar for when you could could elect the cash stipend. So for most people, in the cohort, your last pay will be issued August 15th, even though your last day of service is August 19th. None of our payments have been prorated for the amount of days served. So that's when, if you are ending August 19th and you have not had any sort of issues with like being paid because we didn't have your direct deposit information or any other like mitigating circumstances, that's when you would expect to see that. Okay. So for those of you who have relocated to receive the settling in and relocation allowance, you are eligible for a relocation allowance on the or through the My AmeriCorps portal. Sorry, I just read a question and then my brain got scattered. So you get 40 cents a mile from host sites to your home of record. That home of record cannot be changed after the 10th month of service unless you get approval from CNCS. That 40 cents a mile is paid by CNCS, not by M&A, and so you will have to go through the myamericorps.gov to fill out a travel reimbursement voucher to verify all the addresses. You'll have to submit that, and then you will receive payment for that. That is available at least 15 days prior to the end of your service term, and it takes a while for it to be processed. So they will not pay ahead of time. They will direct deposit it into your account, and it's kind of more of that reimbursement than it is you getting it to be able to like put on security deposit somewhere else or travel home. So again, that comes from CNCS, not from us. We have no control over it. We don't have any sort of hand in that process. So that will be on you to fill out that form and submit it if you want that reimbursement. And
Alexis asks, did you say this is only if you are moving back after service?
No. So if you have received it, the relocation, you get it regardless of whether or not you move back. That is like your prerogative. They will pay either way. Okay. And so if you want to see if you're eligible to get it, that's fine. You can look in your My AmeriCorps portal up to 15 days beforehand. It will say like return to home. What does it say? Relocation travel, and it will say ending service. So if you are someone like Trish who has served for 5 years and you've been moving from site to site, you've never received an end of service benefit. You've received like relocation or movement within the program. So whatever is your home of record, look at that, see if that is eligible in your travel request profile through My AmeriCorps. This is what it looks like in the form that you will fill out. And you'll just select that you are ending service. It will automatically generate it for you, and you will be good to go. Okay? Yep, it's your home of record for AmeriCorps, not for us. Okay. So health coverage. If you are on the health benefit plan, you will have 60 days to enroll in an alternative health care plan. Suggest that you do that in the last 30 days of service so that your health coverage takes action and is implemented before you lose the health benefits plan and you're not left without any sort of insurance. It will end your health benefit plan and your health care allowance. It ends your last day of service. There is like not an extension. There isn't like submitting receipts with the healthcare allowance after the fact. You can submit them. You just have to have your appointments and all of that stuff done up until your year of service ends. There's really like no flexibility with that. So please, if you are on the benefits plan, decide what you are going to do and start thinking about that so that you aren't penalized for not having insurance, and so you have the coverage that you need.
So Alexis asked about the difference between the benefits plan and the allowance plan. So the benefits plan is one that functions as a very basic insurance. I know that with the ACA, if you were eligible for other insurance options, you couldn't take that, but that individual mandate part has been taken out, so anyone can take it now. But the benefits plan is basically the basic health insurance plan you can opt for. The allowance plan is the reimbursement plan, so that's like the one where you have other insurance, but you'll be reimbursed up to, I think, like $7,000 for necessary medical expenses. So like that's the plan. When I broke my arm, I was able to send my receipts to the healthcare portal, and they were able to reimburse my hospital stay. So that's the difference between the two plans.
Okay. So your healthcare allowance will still end when your service ends. You could still submit receipts as long as those appointments and things took place before your service term ended. Perfect. So personal and medical leave for returning vistas. If you are coming back for another year, we will roll over your personal and sick leave onto your next timesheet. If you're ending service, you use it or lose it, and you're not supposed to use it during your last month of service. So if I know some of my vistas have a lot of service related like personal and medical leave available. I know a lot of you have plans to use that, and I've tried to communicate with you all how much time you have left and that you need to use it, but this is my reminder again that it does not get paid out. You can't use it during your last month of service, so please plan on taking advantage of that vacation and sick leave. You're given that for a reason. Perfect. Okay, and then kind of related to employment, I know we already talked about NCE, but there's also an Employers of National Service kind of
PACT?
Yeah, I was
I
going to say a coalition. I feel like PACT is a little better. But those are employers who have signed on to recruit AmeriCorps and Peace Corps alumni, and so they really kind of take your service into consideration and the experience that you gained into consideration, and say, we appreciate that you are service-oriented, and we would like to bring you on our team. So some of those organizations include the Red Cross, the National Park Service, the U.S. Department of Education, Disney, and MNA is an employer of national service. So not only should you look for employers of national service, and you can find them on the job board on Vista Campus, not only should you look for that, when you go on and do work, knowing the work that you've done over the course of the last year, you might consider signing your organization up to be an employer of national service, and it's a really easy process, and it just says that we will honor and value the experience that AmeriCorps and Peace Corps alumni bring into the organization, and take that into consideration when hiring. So definitely try and do that and build that. That does really help with kind of the perception of AmeriCorps and Vista as you move forward. Okay. And then the other major thing that we have are close of service forms. And so close of service forms and the member exit survey should be available for a lot of you in your My AmeriCorps portal. I know I sent out a reminder in the weekly update that was sent out this morning, which hopefully none of you have read because you've been paying attention to our webinar. But it is available 60 days before your end of service, or 90 days before your end of service, and it's due 60 days before your end of service. So again, for those of you who are ending 8/19, and yes, some of you are ending earlier than that, especially if you're doing if you've done multiple years. Some of you have started later than 8/19. But 60 days before 8/19 is June 20th, so that date is coming up. Please go in and update those forms when you know kind of what you're doing and take the member benefit survey. We cannot offboard you without these forms, so that means you will not get paid, you will not get your education award, you will not get your NCE status. None of that stuff will happen if we do not have your forms filled out.
And you'll need to set aside, the future plans form is pretty quick, but the member exit survey can take a little bit, so set aside some time to like thoroughly complete that.
Okay. Do you all have any questions about either anything we talked about today or kind of the random benefits that I have mentioned? Nope. Okay, well, again, if you do have any questions, yeah, Jennifer, I'm happy to answer your question about health care reimbursement right now, if it's helpful. Yep.
Could she speak it?
Yeah.
You should be unmuted now, Jennifer.
Got it. So if we are doing whatever medical related things this and then want to make a claim afterwards for reimbursement, is there, like, does that claim have to be sent in by the end of our service year, or just the medical thing have to be done by the end of the service year? How does that work?
So your appointments and your medical services have to be completed. It only covers anything that takes place during your service term. You can submit receipts afterwards, but I would really encourage anyone who is undergoing any sort of like medical procedure or doctors or checkups to do it ahead of time, because it takes so long to process it, especially if you haven't done it before.
Yeah, it was, when I first did it, for me, it took like a couple weeks before I actually got the money and got it like confirmed.
And Trish says she's never had any issues using the medical account, and everyone has just billed IMG. That is an option. You would just present your medical card and your health insurance card, and the doctor is supposed to take care of all of that, but I have had different experiences with that based on how familiar people are with AmeriCorps. So while that is an option, then I would also just make sure that you are aware that you might have to pay ahead of time and get reimbursed. Okay. So Mark says, how do we use our education award to pay for grad school? How would we send it to the institution? Do you want to do that? Yep. In the My AmeriCorps portal, under in the left-hand side, there will be a way to say, or to like use your education award for whatever. I used it for my loan, so that's why it says loan, but there's a selection that says if you're sending it to, what type of institution you're sending it to, and what type of request you're making. So you can make like a tuition request or.
Yeah, there's something you'd also work out with the institution itself. They would probably have the best knowledge about that.
Yeah, so you would go, and we can help you too. We can show you what that looks like. It's hard because I have used all my education awards, and so I don't have the option to like generate a report, but when you get it, you would generate the report in the same way as was mentioned in the webinar, where you kind of just use your education award, and instead of clicking like a loan repayment, you would click like an education expense. And then instead of an institution and paying it towards your, to like your loan provider, you would pay it towards the institution, and they would take everything from that and send it directly to whoever is taking care of your account at the school.
Earlier, Alexa asked if the home of record is the permanent home address. Yes, that is that. Ashley asks, if a job starts before the end of service by a week or so, will we be able to use sick leave to cover the remaining days of service?
So the answer to that is maybe. A very solid maybe. It's definitely not encouraged that happens, but there has been instances in the past, like I had one person apply for graduate school, and it was medical school, and the orientation started August 3rd, and her service wasn't up until like the 12th, but she had enough sick and vacation time that she was able to cover it at the end. So there would be a benefit then in holding back if you're not sure about what the future entails for you, but I think with a job, it would be a lot harder to make that work. It's a lot less sure. And you would have to talk with me about it, and we would have to get my program officer's approval on it as well.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? We will jump to our housekeeping. Or wait, yes.
Cool.
Oh,
Oh, I lost it. I don't know.
1 second.
So housekeeping, monthly reports and timesheets were due. If you have not sent that in, please do. If I have not responded to you about them, I have yours, so I'm still working on getting through email. Vacation time, again, use it or lose it. Okay. 4th of July plans. A lot of sites are closed for 4th of July. 4th of July also falls on a Thursday. If you are taking time off, that's great. Definitely take some time off. If you are planning on serving and your site is closed, we will need time off-site request forms. As a reminder, you only get to use holiday time if there is a national holiday that is also recognized by your organization. If it's a national holiday and it's not, you should be serving. If your site is closed and it's not a national holiday, like July 3rd, you should be serving, and you will need to come up with an alternate arrangement if you don't want to use your vacation time. So please keep that in mind as the holiday comes up, and get us those time off-site request forms as soon as possible. We will make sure that is sent out in the email that we send you with all of the links and the recording from today. Does anyone have any questions about that? Okay, yeah, so.
The 5th would be happy a vacation day, yep.
Yep. Yeah, so if your place is closed and it's July 4th, then you do not have to take any personal time. You can count that as a holiday. You will record that as 8 hours under the holiday column, and then for the 5th, you would use vacation time and put an 8 in there. Okay. And then, as everyone should know, our research symposium is August 2nd. We will have a working dinner August 1st, so please have those dates on your calendar. And Dylan and I will be touching base with all of our sites, or all of our groups, to talk about what those presentations will look like and what those 2 days will look like, and see kind of what support you need for those days, as well as continuing support for your project. Okay, and then Mark says, would that be true for starting a new AmeriCorps assignment? AmeriCorps is a little different. There is, and I'm not sure all of the details on this, but there is an option if you are staying within the AmeriCorps system, and if you went to the MSU Advising Corps and they needed you to start at the beginning of August because they do like pretty comprehensive training, because you are switching within AmeriCorps program, there is potentially an option for you to leave service up to a month early without being penalized to switch programs. So,
except it means that you get a prorated ed award or a prorated cash stipend.
Yes. So they calculate that basically by day. If that is anyone's situation, please let us know. We can work with you on that. We can send you information for how that proration works. I think that's a word. If not, you know what I mean. But there's like a whole table and chart to figure all that stuff out. We're happy to work with you on it, but we do need you to communicate with us if that's something that you think is going to be an issue. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about housekeeping? Maggie, Dylan, do you have anything else to add? Okay. Well, we will stay on the line for a couple minutes or until everyone is gone. If anyone has any more questions, please feel free to.
Does anyone have questions around human-centered design stuff? Like have we sent materials out around that stuff yet?
I've talked to my group, but I haven't.
We have
Can
you cue it up for them so that they can
Yeah. So I know my human-centered design groups and we've talked about some of the expectations with the presentation. You will need some sort of visual. Presentations will last 5 to 7 minutes. The working dinner before should be a chance for you to do all of the finishing touches and polish it off and make sure that it is perfect. We will have a dry run the morning before the actual symposium, before everyone gets there. And during that time, it will be just like we are presenting so that you understand where we are and like the physical space that we're in, and you're able to present and kind of figure out how it's going to kind of how you're going to run through it. So you will need a presentation. So you will need a presentation, you'll need a visual. There will be time for each group to set up like a table, and during that time there will be a chance for everyone that we've invited, community partners, your sites, to come ask you questions about your specific project. Your presentation should cover kind of the whole gamut of the products we've done. So what your how might we question is, how you are addressing it, what research you've done, what the product is that you've come up with, how you see it being used and the impact of it. And then the networking option will be a chance to kind of dive deeper into what those look like and how to use them, and getting that information to people who could benefit them that are associated with our program and our organization.
Amethyst asks, for the symposium, are we staying the night or will we need to drive up both days? So we are getting everyone hotel rooms for that night, so you'll be able to stay the night. And then as a team for your presentation, you should think about anything that you need. You should think about what you would like to, so each group is getting up to $150 to spend on their project, which they can use for graphic design, professional like copy editing, anything like that, website hosting. So what you would need or want to spend that $150 on, you will need to think about what the sustainability plan is for your program, so where it will be, or project, so where it will be hosted, who's taking over, and then you'll also need to think about how your group wants to present themselves. You should be coordinated, so if everyone wants to dress professional, that's fine. If everyone wants to wear their AmeriCorps Vista polos, that's fine, but you should all be on the same page with things like dress as well. Yeah, we have documents too that we'll be able to send you all that have like a checklist for making sure you're prepared for the presentation. So that August 2nd date, the morning will be the dry run through. 11-ish to 1-ish, we will do the actual 5 to 7 minute presentations, and then the networking hour. And then after that, we will have kind of like a team building goodbye event. So more information will be coming on that as well. Trish, I imagine that you will not be coming down the day before. Everyone will be coming down August 1st because we're not doing anything until the working dinner on the 1st. So you'll have the full day to get here. Okay. If anyone has any more questions about that, we're happy to answer them. You're also welcome to reach out to either myself or Dylan to kind of get clarity on some things. And we, like I said, we will be working on figuring all this out with you in our human-centered design group. We appreciate you. Keep up the good work. Yeah, and thank you, Rachel, for talking with us about NCE today. You did a great job, Rachel. Yep. Thanks, everyone.